Hi everyone, good to see you. I hope you can see me. Hi everyone. So, before we get started, I don't know how many of you have been to one of those master classes, so I want you to be all very comfortable. We start 3 after the hour, so you still have time to get something to write, something to drink. And today is going to be all about letting you know about the 5 pillars of the INFJ Epic Life System. So, yeah, I see people from Netherlands, from Florida. Hi guys, anyone from Germany? Yes, here, big hug from Cologne. You have it right away. Good to see you guys. Okay. Yeah, let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. Hi Linda. So again, we just want to make sure that all the technical stuff is working so we can really use the hour the best way we can. So as I said, we're going to start 3 after the hour and we're going to continue until then so you get the best out of it. Yes, we can. Perfect. Great. So, mm, just a little bit of background. So, what we do today, or what we normally do with this masterclass is something that I do every time I launch a bootcamp round. We do 4 a year, and after this, it's been 3 years that we've been doing bootcamp, and INFJs keep coming back because it's lifetime access. So once you're in it, you can join every other coming live round for free. And the fact that INFJs keep coming back is like the best testimonial for me because I see, oh, okay, this is working. This has worked last time, and now that they're at a higher level and they want to continue. So every single time we launch a bootcamp round, we do this masterclass, and it's really important to me that I also give you some things that you can use today. So this isn't just about, oh, look how great bootcamp is, but I also want to just show you how the 5 pillars work, why they have been the thing that really changed my whole life as an INFJ, and how I started implementing that with my one on one clients. And I saw that this is something that works so incredibly well for INFJs. And it's something that we cannot go into detail in. In the videos. And so today is all about the 5 pillars and what we can do with them. Some I see. Okay, so people from Toronto, from Brazil, Berlin. Hi, South Africa. Great guys. It's so like this is like the best thing to see you from everywhere. Yeah. So just a couple of logistic things. So yes, before I forget it. So everybody who wants to join bootcamp, we have an early bird price until Monday. The link's in the description if you haven't gotten the code yet. And if you join until the end of this hour, so everybody who joined before this masterclass or during this masterclass enters to win one of 3 audio guides, right? So this is something that's a little bit of a incentive for you if you've been wondering. And what we're going to do is, I want you to ask your questions. So if you have any questions, if you think about it, like if you remember, write a Q in front of it so we know, okay, you're not just talking to each other or saying hi or anything like this. This is something that we can pull up and then we can take it from there. Yeah, see, I see already. William says, you've helped me out big time. The struggles of an INFJ. Yeah, live from NYC. Well, the thing is, this we as INFJs, we do have extraordinary struggles, and with that I don't mean we have more struggles than others. I honestly don't believe that. It's just that every single type has different things that they have to deal with, and if you don't have any people around you who have gone through this and have come out of it successfully, it seems like we're all alone. And since we don't have that much, that many role models to see, it kind of gets harder. So that's why I'm so happy that this community keeps on growing, not just, my channel's community, but the INFJ community, by itself. Because when I first got into the scene, which was around 8 years ago, it was all about poor me. INFJ is a martyr. INFJ is always an observer in life. And it was pretty much like the sentence that at first seemed like, oh, now I'm finally hurt. Like now I finally understand myself, and it was like such a great relief for me, and I know it's such a great relief for so many INFJs, but then it like stays at this level, and it's like, okay, so I'm just doomed to live a life where I feel like I'm not tapping into my potential because I'm an INFJ. And that's just not the case. And thankfully we do have so much experience now, and just knowledge when it comes to INFJs, how to get on that path where you create that INFJ epic life on your terms, and you feel like you're proud of the steps that you're making, you're proud of who you're becoming, and you're keeping the promises you make to yourself, and you're creating the life that you always wanted, but you didn't know how to put it into, into something tangible, and we're making it tangible. So Rodrigo says, can you add subtitles to your channel videos? I do have subtitles, I do, but they're in English. So I'm hopefully maybe next year, based on like how fast the channel grows, we can add foreign subtitles as well. So this is something that we're working on. So just in general, do some of you have already some questions concerning the 5 pillars? I know I'm going to explain everything, what they're about, but some of you may have already looked into it. That is what the poster is all about. I don't know if I have a link to the poster in this description, but I have it in every other video in the description if you want to get that, if you haven't. So do some of you already have some kind of questions you want to get out and tell us about it? Questions about other things? Well, Drew, we never know if these things don't have anything to do with the 5 pillars. So if it's an INFJ related thing, this has everything to do with that. So this isn't just about, ask your questions about like the 5 pillars, but ask your questions if you want to have, like, if you're on your path to saying, I want to create a better life, and what's been in your way, and we're going to talk about how to get out of that. Okay, so let's see what we have here. So Zayed says, in what way are the pillars specific to INFJs? In what way are they just applicable to humans in general across these types? So the thing is this, like, let's say pillar 1, we're right there, physical energy management. So physical energy management is all about like how we as INFJs can get more energy. And you might say, okay, isn't that like a general human thing? Well, not really, because most people don't go through life and say, I want more energy. And this isn't something that necessarily motivates people. So everything that falls into this category are, of course, the typical things that you can think of as sleep, as exercise, as nutrition, as decluttering. Meditation falls into this category. And very often, if you would tell an INFJ, you should work out or you should eat healthy, the INFJ will lose interest in that very quickly, because it just isn't a means to an end. Like, there is no why do it, right? It sounds cool or it sounds right, but it doesn't really motivate us enough. But what does motivate us is if we know the following. If I want to step out of the rat race that has just been my life, where I'm, in the passenger seat, where I'm the, supporting role in somebody else's movie, all of that. If I want to get out of that, then I need additional energy. Like, that's just a fact. You need to improve your energy as much as possible. You need to remove things from your life that like drain you of energy. And then you will have the excess energy to actually then put into the other pillars to create like this new path. Like, I always give this example of, imagine you're on a cornfield, and all your life you've gone down this path, and this path is already flat, it's been walked on, it's like, like you know how to walk there, but it doesn't lead you where it's good. It leads you to a place where you're using all the energy that you do have, which is limited to begin with, to keep your head above water. That's it. It, like, you're good to survive. Everything else you're giving to others. And now when you create this new path that is actually in alignment with who you want to be, and creating like a system for you that keeps on re-energizing you and then gives to others, right? So you're overflowing of energy, and it spills over, and so you actually able to give to others more, but it starts with you. In order to have that, you need to create that new path. And creating this new path is going to be hard. It like really requires some energy because it's not so much about putting in hours of work. No, it's mental load. When I first started doing this channel, it was like I did this on Sunday mornings. It was so hard for me to just get ready and to like, go take a shower, set up my equipment because like doing something where there's no external like accountability, there's nothing like this. It just requires that physical energy that you need to push yourself. And so if you know this as an INFJ, that in order to create the life that you want, you need physical energy, in that kind of way, you're way more likely to say, okay, I'm going to improve on my sleep. I'm going to improve the way I eat, or I'm going to declutter my life and my house and whatever it is, because I need that energy. And that's the kind of motivation that, is very attractive to INFJs because it makes sense. There's like a bigger purpose behind it and why you're doing this. So that's how that thing starts. Um, Relationship management, similar. I'm just going to go over this in a couple of ways. So relationship management, yeah, everybody wants to work on their relationships, true. But how we look at it is relationships are the anchors to the person that we are or the person we want to be. And so if you're going through life and you don't like the version that is, walking around, because the people around you have gotten to know you, this old version of you that is, not doing things, that are best for them, but more like what is best for others, or how can I not rock the boat, and all of these things. And so those are anchors that keep you the person you have always been. Because no matter how hard you try to become this new person, if everybody around you mirrors back to you that old version, it's going to be rather hard. And what we learned here is how to look into the main categories of relationships. So it's friendships, it's romantic relationship, it's family, it's what did I forget? It's coworkers and stuff like this, like work relationships. And you learn how to change dynamics here, and to also know that this, for example, will require energy. So we learn how to gather more energy on a regular basis, how to keep this as a constant in our life, how to make these changes in a way where it's not about willpower. It's just something that, it helps to become the person you want to be. It's like becomes your new normal. And then you have the energy to deliberately change those dynamics until every relationship that you have becomes like this anchor to the person you want to become. And so this in itself will already take a lot of the burden off of you, because it requires, strength and physical energy to continue to act in a way that is healthy for you, but isn't what you've been used to. And so, like, I'm not going to go over everything in order to give, like, other people chances for the questions, but you see my point. So it continues like this. It continues in the wealth management category that we as INFJs don't, for us, wealth, it seems like superficial. And to learn that wealth management is not like a bad thing. It can be in integrity, and it's not about buying things in order to impress people that we don't like. No, it's about like, wealth is energy. And the more wealth you have, the more you can contribute in a way that you see fit. If it's for you, for your family, for your community, whatever it may be, but to have a different approach to that. And vocation, like, the thing is this, like, yes, everybody cares about vocation to some point, but we as INFJs, for us, if everything else is sort of figured out, like, this will pop up. For other types, it might be way, like, everything might be great before they care about vocation. For us, if we don't have a purpose, you're not going to feel like, oh, I'm about to move forward and this is exciting. So, these kind of things are important and are very particular for INFJs. And the last one is priority management, because, we very often get, here somebody needs us, or some situation needs our attention. And the main thing here is to learn how to prioritize what is important and not urgent, right? So You know, how can I work on my book although nobody cares about it right now? How can I make sure that I'm long term, focusing on improving my relationships in such a way that, I create that life that becomes easier and easier. So a lot of INFJs who start this process, like, there comes this like fear of, oh, it's going to be hard all my life, to go down that path, because it is hard in the beginning. But trust me, it's not going to stay this way. It feels like this in the beginning because it's something new, but before you know it, you will already have, carved that new path. And the more often you go through it, and it's just about like adding some to it, it just gets easier. It really is also an exponential curve, and it is, you're getting into the flow, and it's a dynamo. And once you start building this momentum, it just gets easier and easier. Okay, so let's see. Remember to, like, put a Q in front of it, so it's easier for me to spot. Okay, here I have something. So Michael says, if we can create worlds in our heads and feel successful or pleasure just by thinking, then what's the point of actually making it in the real world? So this is like a thing I completely agree with you. That was how I lived my life for the longest time. But the thing is this: at some point, you will have a discrepancy between what you imagine in your mind and how it turns out. Like, if it would work like this, it would be perfect. But it seems like, and you will have to agree with me on this, that creating this world in your mind is never enough. Because if it was, then why would we even watch videos on self-improvement? Why would we care? We would just be in bliss all the time. But if you're not constantly like feeling, oh, I'm living it, it's all exciting and so on, then something is not working. Because the point is this: if we're not creating anything new in the real world, we're not getting any new information that we can put into our system. So we're creating something based on all the information we currently have. And then we live out the same life, the same circumstances. We're not creating anything new. And so we cannot imagine anything like new out of that. We just have the given data. But if you say, I'm going to start creating the things that I make up in my mind, right? I start creating them, and you actually live them out, you recognize two things. Number one, it is different, what you imagine in your mind than what it is in reality. It's never as exciting, really making it like happen in the real world. Like, it's always going to fall short to your imagination. But you're not going to care because you get excited about the process of, oh, I made this happen. Therefore, I have new information. I'm in this new environment that I thought would be different. Like, let's say you say, oh, I can imagine writing a song, and then this is going to happen, and I'm going to have this effect on people and so on. And then you actually do it, you see, oh, it is a little bit different than I thought. Because you might have a great idea about it, but it's never going to be as is never going to give you as much information as when you actually do it. And through that new information, you're in a new place. You have a new baseline. And in that baseline, you can then create the next step in your mind first. You can't do that if you haven't really walked that step yet. So if you say, I'm able to create my life in my mind, and it like gives me all the pleasure that I want, and I don't seek anything else. I know that I'm tapping into my potential. Like, great for you. Like, you're doing it right. I'm happy for you. It wasn't like this for me. And it's not like this for most INFJs. We feel like, you know, it's something we tell ourselves because it seems like there is no other choice. But there is a choice. It's just a price we have to pay. And the price, on the one hand, is that we do have to put in extra effort. But the other price is that once we do that, we expose ourselves. And so there's fear behind it of, oh, if I do this, then, people are going to abandon me. They're going to see my real colors. They're going to see that, um, I'm not the person that they thought I was, and that I'm not exactly how they would want me to be. And so there's a lot connected to that. But the thing is this: it's so worth it. Like, I remember every single day thinking there has to be more to life, or, I just have to, I just have to accept it, that that's how life is going to be for me. And The moment I started this transformation, since that moment, I've never thought like this ever again. And it wasn't about like reaching some kind of accolades or milestones. No, it was like the first day I started it, because the approach was different. The approach was, I'm responsible for how I feel and what I create in my life. And I'm willing to face all my fears, step by step. Because the thing is we never want to get to a place where we overwhelm ourselves. Like, this is what we learn in bootcamp as well. It's about getting yourself out of your comfort zone, but not overwhelming yourself. It's not about willpower, it's not about discipline, and it's not about like doing things that will bring a lot of shame or, bring up all of this pain. No, it's like, what is the next step that I can do that, yeah, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. It triggers my growth. It gets me out of my comfort zone, but it's, I can still handle it. And that's the sweet spot we're looking for. I just saw something. So that says, I had this happening quite frequently lately. I finally get a day or two where my energy is up, and then I either overdo things that day or go to sleep late, or my focus on myself weakens. So that's something, for example, we learn in physical energy management, that you have to be aware of that this is going to happen. Like, we got to learn where our balance is. And if we like overextend our energy, we're going to get to a place where we need to either rest, or where we need to just recognize, oh, that was too much, and therefore we may even lose like some we may lose like momentum and so on. And what we learn is that we as INFJs, we don't have to do all the things. That's what I always say. We have to do the right things, and we have to do it in a way where you challenge yourself to, let's say, 4%. Like, a great example that I give very often and that we also work on is sleep, for example. So let's say you sleep from 2 to 6, right? You want, like, at night, like, you only have 4 hours of sleep, but the goal is to sleep 8 hours. You cannot set a goal for yourself to say, okay, now I'm starting with everything and I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. It's just not going to work. You might be able to discipline yourself for a couple of days, but that requires so much energy and you won't be able to keep it up. Like, one way or another, something will happen and then you fall into default mode. And your default mode is going to bed, let's say, at 2, right? So what we learn is that it's way more important, particularly as INFJs, to know where you're at than to actually make those big improvements. So it's way more important to figure out, I can go to bed, like my point right now is 2 o'clock. And the way I'm going to challenge myself is going to bed at 1:45. Because what we're learning is the art of showing up. What we're learning is how we can change our new normal. Because before you know it, it will be no problem for you to go to bed at 1:45. It will be something that you think you could do for the rest of your life. Because right now, you can go to bed at 2 until the rest of your life. You don't have to stay up until 3, right? So there is always some kind of normal for you right now. And we want to change that normal. We want it to feel like you could do this for the rest of your life and it wouldn't bring you any trouble. I don't think it brings me any trouble to brush my teeth every day, right? It's like, it's just something you do. And so, and I, for example, I go to bed at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, like I sleep my 7 to 8 hours. Like, that's just not difficult for me. But it's not like this is something that could have been like this, like, it just happened and I just got lucky. No, it's like, because I have learned that in a lot of ways, it's just more important to find out where you're at and how you can improve it by, let's say, those 4%. Once you're able to improve from 2 to 1:45, and it really feels like it doesn't require any willpower, any at all, you have learned how to change your, you will have learned how to change your normal and your default state. And once you've learned this, everything else becomes way easier. Because then it's like, okay, now that I've learned how to get to 1:45, I'm not going to rush myself. I'm not going to overextend my energy on, doing things, on my relationships, on my vocation, on my wealth management, on how well I prioritize things. No, I'm taking it slowly, but therefore I'm getting massive growth in, like, let's say a year. Because I know that this slow and steady pace is going to lead to an exponential learning curve. Because not just exponential learning curve, but just an exponential growth, right? Because then you don't have those moments where you fall back and overextend yourself, and you just have to, you're just so exhausted emotionally and mentally that you need to take a break. If you learn that, you're like become like this bulldozer, and it's like this quiet, like strong force that just keeps on going, right? And it just it's like so steady and so like fluent that you get results that you never thought possible. And so these are things that we learn a lot in boot camp. And for INFJs, these things are incredibly important because we don't have so much energy to begin with. We're not ESTPs who can do, and they have to learn to do the right things, to set the right priorities, and to have like a great vision. We have the vision. For us, it's the execution that is going to be our challenge, and we have to do it in such a way that it's sustainable, and in such a way where we get the biggest results and where we stay on track. Because this is one of the great things as an INFJ: we can hold on to a goal like better than others. We can, like, we have this long-term vision. We know what we want. We can hold on to this. And now it's about like making that a reality in all areas, when the only thing you can see is the next step. In the real world, you cannot see how everything is going to play out. You don't feel it, but you can, plan it out in your mind, and then say, okay, how can I take those steps so it doesn't really get me out of my energy at all. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Okay, you said, like, just to follow up, I don't know the first question. Let me see if I can still understand what you're asking. So just to follow up, how do you balance your mind and not getting sucked in so you can actually create this world you try to in reality? So how do you do that? It's like, the point is that you don't expect it of yourself. So we get lost in our mind so often. For INFJs, it's extremely difficult to distinguish between what is reality and what is just in your mind. And there are two ways to make this happen. First off, to know that, if it happens that your mind goes back into daydreaming, that this is not something you should ever feel guilty about. What we want is to create a reality that just becomes better than, what you're thinking about. So all the escapes that we have in our mind, if it's being infatuated with somebody that is living in a different city or country, or being infatuated with the life we want, but not doing anything about it, just thinking about this already will make you feel good. Because we as INFJs have the capacity to do that, to think of something, and that in itself, like the way our mind works, it just makes us feel great things. But therefore, we're not doing anything active in our life. And so at some point, reality catches back up to us, and it like overwhelms us with these negative emotions of, well, but my life isn't that great as I would want it. And so you have, let's say, reality at this level of how well it feels. And you have like your mind, and it's like, here, it really feels better. So you keep going back here. So the point is that until your life has become better, you are okay with your mind going into escape mode. Because if you do the things people tell you all the time, block people, don't like do this, completely forget that, it just doesn't work for us, because we still have that emotional feeling that we can create with it. So that is the one thing. Like, not feel guilty about it, allow yourself to go back there, and then to know the following: the only way you're going to get away from this, oh, but my mind feels good, is to create a reality that feels better than what you're currently imagining somehow, right? And this is possible because once your reality and doing something in reality feels better than the things you imagine, you automatically are going to go here because that is what feels better. And so you're doing this without even thinking. Like these are things that happen on a subconscious level, and you have 60,000 thoughts in a day. And if you can make it that you want to think about continuing to grow that reality for you, then like it becomes easy. It's like, of course I'm going to do the thing that brings me the biggest joy. Why not? Like, that happens automatically. So, how do we do this? Well, we do this by telling ourselves the following. What I'm doing, is it an externally observable fact? Right? Am I doing something that I could actually tell my friend about? So is it just, oh, I'm contemplating about how to start my book? Or is it, I wrote that one page? Is it, I'm imagining a world and things are happening and it's all like great? Or is it, I send out 3 applications this month? So these are things that I always call like the non-romantic things. Like we as INFJs, we like to live in this, heightened, intensive, like world full of intensity. But the things we have to do aren't like this. But the point is, you don't have to do so much of it. Like I promise you, we're talking about like small percentages of your day that go into this. And because you do this, you can actually daydream way more. Like right now, I am so often in my mind, and so often I'm happy and I can do this because I can relax, because I know I have done the steps that I need to do in like the 5 pillars in my life in order to know that things are going in the way I want. And the trajectory of where my life is going is exactly where I want it to be. And therefore, the rest of the time, I can just, daydream and make everything happen. And so these are things we do in bootcamp a lot, is like, how do you distinguish between what is real and what is just in your mind? How you can become aware of that? Like, we write things in our schedule. Like if you cannot put it in your schedule, it's not something that is putting you towards the place you want to be. As I said, of like, oh, I'm doing research in my mind, or I'm contemplating, or things like this. No, it's like, I'm going to have lunch with my friend on Saturday to make sure that I have, some kind of external contact with people. It doesn't have to be every day. I mean, I'm an INFJ. I don't have to have that much contact, but I want to have some kind of connections with people. It's about, next Friday, I'm going to have that uncomfortable conversation with my brother. It's, on Saturday morning for 2 hours, I'm sitting there and as I said, 2 hours is like when you're further ahead. You can say on Saturday morning for 5 minutes, I'm sitting down and I'm writing a couple of points I want to write into the book that I want to do for my vocation, because that is something that I want to have in my life. And then you work on, becoming the person you want to be, right? It's way more about becoming who you want to be than achieving a certain milestone or accolade. Like those are things that we talk about a lot in priority management. Here, hold on 1 second. So Walter says, how do we build stronger boundaries and say what we mean in a non-harsh way? That's where I struggle in self-sabotage. I get so hurt and keep a tally, but then I lash out. Okay, so this is something that we work on, particularly in pillar 2. Hold on, I think if I put into pillar 2, your question will disappear, but I will put it back up. So how do we do that? The point here is to know that you have to, like, it's way easier if you're just meeting somebody, right? Because if you're just meeting somebody, you say, from the first day that I see this person, I'm going to act in a way that is more about making sure what I want. You're not becoming mean, right? That's not the point. But think about it like this. We as INFJs, we start a new relationship that is based on, how can I make the best for everybody? So you're thinking what is best for you and what is best for the other person. But the point is that you have to think firstly what is good for you. And then you can decide, okay, am I going to make a compromise for the other person? But the way we act in our default state, we're first thinking about what would others want. And so if you from the beginning make it that you're not making yourself uncomfortable, you're saying, no, I don't want to go to this place. Um, I like the fact that I, talk to my friends every other day. I don't want to talk to you every single minute of the day, right? If you start off by this and it might seem harsh to you at the beginning, but it isn't, right? It's actually giving the relationship the biggest chances it could have. Because then from the beginning, you're showing the other person that's what I need in order to be comfortable. And if you want me to stay comfortable long term, you can decide, can you deal with the things that are important to me or not? Because we have to remember, you're not forcing anybody to be friends with you or to be close to you. Or even if you work with somebody, you're not forcing anybody to have a personal relationship with you at all. But it's on them to decide. It's not on you. It's not on you to say, oh, the way I am makes the other person uncomfortable, therefore I change. No, it's, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to do what is important to me. And I'm not, of course, that doesn't mean that if you like to listen to really loud music, and it bothers other people, that you're supposed to do that. But ask yourself, I promise you, you're being way more lenient with what you allow others to do than what you're allowing yourself to do. And if you're not sure, like, ask yourself these things. Am I being unreasonable? Like, is it okay for me to listen to really loud music when others are working? No, because you wouldn't want that from other people. But so many things, you're totally fine if somebody else does it, but you don't think you have the right to do that. So that is the first thing. And it's easier, as I said, if you meet somebody new, because then from the beginning you can start like making this happen. And so the other person automatically learns, okay, this is the type of person that you are. And they decide, if I want to be close to that person, there's certain areas I need to protect, because if I don't, then I'm going to get the backlash of it. I'm going to feel like it's uncomfortable for the other person if you let them know that something they're doing isn't like, you don't like that, right? And so, but it's more difficult if you have known somebody forever. And the way you do that is to, start in very small steps. The same thing goes for, meeting somebody new. Like, this is also something where you need additional energy, because like, it's a fight. It really is a fight. It requires tension. It requires discomfort, but I promise you, it's not going to stay this way. Like, when I meet new people now, I don't feel this discomfort. I don't feel this discomfort with anybody that I know forever at all. I actually feel way more relaxed because I'm not walking on eggshells. I know that, like, the people who are here, they know where my boundaries are and what things are going to bother me, and therefore they don't do it, because they know that if they would get some kind of reaction. And so in the beginning, when you give those reactions, it hurts. It's uncomfortable. But the more often you do this, the more people learn, okay, that's who you're about. And then they can decide if they want to be friends with you or not. And this also works for parents, for family, and so on. Like, I know how hard it is to break cycles and, established boundaries. But, it's about like pushing again and again until you feel like you're not walking on eggshells anymore. We as INFJ so often go through life like this, like making ourselves as small as possible, not to offend somebody. We're ducking in order to, duck, like, I'm not sure what the word is, but like, we make ourselves small in order, like, not to offend somebody, so there wouldn't be any backlash. What we want is to be like this, like, seriously, like, be as big of energy as you possibly can, because this is your right, this is your human right, and you're not taking anything away from anybody, right? It's just like, you're not, taking any reasons away why somebody might not like you. People are going to like you and people are not going to like you, and it won't have anything to do with you. but you have to right to be yourself all the time. And then, people have to, like, let them, allow them to make that decision if they're okay with who you are. Very often we don't do that because we think, if I'm being myself, like, who's going to like that? Like, I'm too big, I'm too intense, I take up way too much space. No, you don't. You don't. And so the fact that as you said, you keep a tally and then you lash out, this happens because you've made compromises too often. And this is a typical INFJ thing. So it's not even going to work any other way. But the sooner you take that space, the sooner you let people know that, they act in a way that is something that you didn't like, the more they're going to learn that these things bother you, because every single person is different. We always go through life and think like, oh, they must have known. Like, I do so much for them. Why are they not protecting what is important to me? They don't protect it because, first off, they don't know it. They don't know what that is, because even we as INFJs, what hurts me isn't the same what will hurt you and what will make you uncomfortable. So we gotta let people know that, right? So that is the first thing. And the second thing is that you have to be willing to have, like, those uncomfortable um like feedbacks, because people are not going to get it just by you explaining it to them, right? This is the typical, you can tell a child, don't touch the hot stove, you're going to burn your finger, it's still going to do it. The moment they stop doing that is when they once put their finger on it and, it hurts. And this hurt feeling is the moment you lash out in a healthy, small way, as in, hold on, I don't like this. Or, no, like somebody says, oh, let's do this. And you say, no, I need a break. Like, that's too much for me. Like, all of those things. And what you're doing in that moment, you're just showing a mirror, right? Somebody put some kind of negative energy towards you and you're just pushing it back. That's all that happens, right? You're not doing anything like wildly, like, how unimaginable, how bad could that be? So that's how this works. And I promise you, it's not going to stay this hard. Like, this is something, once you start it and you're willing to, like, go down that path and fight that fight, it will get easier and easier. And you will create, like, those new anchors, those new dynamics that help you be treated as the person you want to be. And then it just becomes easier to show up as that version of yourself. Okay. So Carolina asks, how do I calm the voices in my head? Sometimes I get lost in thought and the chatter becomes so loud that it drains a lot of energy and causes a lot of stress. So this is a typical pillar 1 question. Hold on. I got it. So why is that? So one of the things we talk about in pillar 1 is decluttering. And decluttering is not just about, like, your house or your closet. It's about your mind, because guess what? Yes, this drains a lot of energy. And what's the goal of pillar 1? We want to gain as much energy, and therefore we have to remove all of those things that are draining it to begin with. So how do we do that? Well, one of the things that helps a lot is to actually start decluttering, to declutter our house. Believe it or not. And again, we don't do it because it's trendy, because it, like, oh, it makes us feel good. No, it's because when you do that, you're forcing your mind to, see all of those unhealthy thoughts. You have to actually confront yourself with it. Most of the time, it happens like this. You have, like, tidy or untidy stuff in your house. Your mind has, like, all of these thoughts, and it just goes, like, it's like this background noise, and you can deflect it. It doesn't go away, right? And that's why for so many people it's so uncomfortable to go into a yoga class where everything is quiet, or to meditate. Like, when you meditate, it's a meditation practice, because you start meditating, and the easiest way to do it, and what I still to this day like to do the most is guided meditation, right? The videos on YouTube, you can start really easily. So you start like following that voice that tells you, now think of this and so on. After 10 seconds, your thoughts will be again at, oh, that uncomfortable conversation I had with, my friend, or, oh, I still have to do this and this and this. So the point here is to get back to the thoughts you want to have, right? So what we learn is how to control what we think of. So the similar thing, it happens with the decluttering process. If you're, in an environment that doesn't allow you to deflect everything, you actually have to face all of those uncomfortable feelings that are causing like those chatters in your mind. And the way you do that is the following, and I can give you a little trick here. You don't say, oh, I'm going to declutter my entire room or my entire house or something like this. No, the point is that you say, I'm going to declutter, let's say, one cupboard, like one drawer. And then the point is to keep that drawer tidied up. It's not about tidying up everything. Like, this is like the biggest mistake that is done when it comes to this. And for INFJs, this makes the biggest difference. It's about being able to say, I'm controlling my mind so much that I'm going to keep this drawer tidied up. And only when I feel I can keep it tidied up forever, potentially, I then take on the next thing. So if everything in your house is decluttered, um, you know, trust me, like that's how it is to start. Because it is possible to have a life where everything is tidied up and it doesn't require any willpower at all. This is a reflection of all of that. Like, there are many ways to go about this. As I said, like, it's, visualization, as in controlling where your thoughts are going. So you're actively doing something, to say, my thoughts are going into that direction and they're focusing on the things that are important to me. But on the other hand, it's also to make sure, how can I remove all of this clutter that is going on in my mind? And one of the best ways I have found is to create like a clean space. And so to force ourselves to step by step confront all of those emotions, because it's emotions that are causing all of this clutter in our mind, right? We have some kind of like a discomfort in our system, and because of that we try to rationalize it. Oh, I feel so bad because of that conversation I had last week with that person and so on. But the thing is this, if you didn't have any underlying, negative emotions that you're carrying with yourself for something that has probably been with you forever, you wouldn't care about what happened last week, right? It's like it happened and now you're back focused on like the things you want. Because theoretically, if you think about it, like, I don't know how many seconds there are in a day, but like there's this like saying, and I think it works really well. But let's say there would be, or like 60,000 thoughts. Okay, we know around 60,000 thoughts a day. So if, like something bad happens, you lose, 5 thoughts on that negative thing. Like, is it really worth like throwing away all of the other, like, 59,000 whatever it is, thoughts that you could potentially have? No, it's like, okay, you have a couple of bad thoughts and then you go back into using all your thoughts in order to create the life that you want, because the act of thinking positively already makes you feel good. Like, that's the theory. Everybody knows this, as in, like, of course it would be great if I could just focus on the things I want to do and they would make me happy. So that is where we want to go. But it just doesn't happen by us deciding to do that. So we have to step by step do things that help us, on the one hand, as I said, actively creating the thoughts that we want and setting out a vision and putting things in our calendar and making sure we're doing things. But on the other hand, like saying, how can I remove all of this junk in my head? And as I said, one great way is decluttering and making like that space. Because if you're forcing yourself to create this like space where there's nothing, and that's what a clean cupboard actually is, like knowing I have to make sure that this stays clean. This is a very similar way of how you teach yourself to keep your mind clean of all the things you don't want. And it's really interesting because for INFJs, very often you'll see that if they're somehow tidy, it's tidy like on the outside. What is untidy is in the cupboard. And then you'll see with other types, it's the other way around. Like everything in there, it's tidy, perfect, and everything on the outside is. And the reason for this is actually, you'll see this a lot with um, like SI, like people who have introverted sensing, like that their stuff internally is all tidy up. Everything that's outside, it's more like NE, like extroverted intuition. It's more like for us. I know introverted intuition is more precise, but it's still like more like this vast world and all of that. So if we're able to be tidy up somehow, it will rather be the visual thing, right? So this is uh, uh, um, one thing, one way how you could do that. Okay, I saw here super thanks. Oh, hold on. I don't want to miss that. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. It's a little bit difficult to see it here in my system. I saw that somebody said something, but I don't know if there was a question. I don't want to. Hold on, maybe. Ah, there it was. Okay. Okay, there we go. So thank you, Joshua, for the donation. So I will say a lot of my struggles as an INFJ regarding hurt from others, purpose, healing, anxiety over the future have been healed by following Jesus. Yeah, so that is a great way. Like if you know that something has worked for you and you have a belief system that makes you feel good, like that's the best thing. Like for me, the moment I was able to find something that gave me the purpose, which was for me to know, okay, I'm going to make the best out of this life, and I believe in, it's more than just about me. It's about, I want to, do what I can to make this world better, right? Because I knew like something had to change. And the moment I started doing this, it like, it gave you just a lot of, it just changes everything. So, I can only recommend this for everybody who's struggling somehow. Find something that gives you purpose. And it's like, it's easier said than done because, that's the thing, Joshua. Like, for the longest time, when I was younger, particularly, I said, oh, I wish I believed in God because then everything would be easier. For most people, it's like, hard to really get to that place. But the point is like to ask yourself, okay, I can get myself to a place where I'm doing the things that I know are good theoretically and in logic, but I can also give purpose behind it, and you can find what is like that meaning for you. And we talk about it a lot in pillar 4 as well, when it's really about like how can I find how I can be of service, right? We talk about that a lot. And but the thing as INFJs is we are very often at service. Like we're doing this for friends, we're doing it like whatever way we want, but very often it's first fueled by codependency, and second of all, we're doing this at the expense of us feeling good about ourselves. And so that's why we so often get to this place where we door slam or do something, because we feel like I've given you everything. I've done my best to help you in any way possible. And I've made myself small. I dimmed my light, all of that. And and then like you don't ever get the recognition that you were looking for because you're sacrificing so much just to get like this thing. Yes, thank you, you saved me. And so when we really want to live in our purpose, we have to make sure that we live in alignment with how we want to be seen, that we're not doing something that gets us out of our integrity. We're not doing something that makes us dim our light. We're actually being the biggest light possible. And through that, we actually share our gifts only when we feel good about like what we're doing and how we show up. So we make a we distinguish between who we're helping. We're not saying, oh, I'm helping everybody and I'm doing it, in a way where they can receive it. But we're saying I'm helping if like I can stay in my, in my essence. Because the thing is this, like you are a gift to the world as well. And if you're not giving yourself that recognition, then, nobody else can give that to you. And so if you start looking at it as an I'm a gift to this world and I have to honor that, and if you do that and you say I stay within that, like within the way I want to be seen. Like for me it was, that I'm actually, you know, I'm a warrior in a lot of ways. And I felt like when I was a warrior around other people, it made them feel weak. So therefore, I made myself small and I, removed myself from that. And then I realized I can't do that. I have to be in that role that I need to be. And only when I can show up as that version, then I can help others and I'm not taking any energy away from me. Then my cup of energy is overflowing and I can give to others. Like I continuously have more and more energy, and therefore there's continuously more energy to give to others. So a lot of the things we talk about there is like how to find that um, role model, how to find that archetype that can help us to like anchor in how we want to show up, and then to combine that with how we want to serve. And and then when you find that sweet spot, that's exactly when you add like that vocation in your life, and you're just doing this mainly to to say I'm adding this to my life. This isn't something that is necessarily like your business or anything like this. Like my channel was that for me, and for the longest time, like I thought like one day I could do this as like my business. Like in the beginning it was just my way of giving back, and it just added so much to my life. And as an infj, it just is incredibly important, and it can be like it's so uniquely you, but like it's important to figure out what that is. And as I said, in pillar 5, in pillar 4, we learn a lot how to how to tap into this. So let me see the okay. So Lisa says, so thank you, Lisa. I love all of this, but as a parent to a young child, there are a lot of social things we have no choice over, like parties, clubs, play dates. Yes. Why is that a problem? Like that's not like you are part of you're part of that group, right? You go to that party, you go to that club, you go to that play date. And so therefore you are part of the thing that decides how this party is going to play out, or that play date. We as INFJs, we very often we go into a situation and there are, let's say, 5 people, and we say, how can I adapt to that? I don't even like it, but I have to go there. I have to be there. And so we sort of try to like, how can we not rock the boat and be a little bit in the background? Because what would be the alternative? The alternative is that you say, okay, you 5 that you've been there, you've created this, energy around you. This is the social situation there and so on. Now, if you enter, it's a new one because that one exists of you as well. It's a 6-party place. And so you have at least 1/6 of energy to add. But that requires energy from you. It requires you being upfront of, yeah, I want to do it like this and I want to do it like that, and to take like an active role in that. And guess what? This is difficult. Like we're not going to do this with everything. Like I love situations where I can just lay back and let others decide. Like I don't do that with everything. But the things that are important to me and the things that I don't want to tolerate, I do have the energy now to, like use my 1/6% or even more, not 1/6%, but 1/6, um, or even more, because I want to create part of that. I want to make all of this happen. And you will see like the more you actually start doing the things in like pillar 1 and are working on this, you do have the energy. Because before I could have never organized a party, done anything like this where I take charge in making choices like this, because it was like too much responsibility, like energy wise. It doesn't have to stay this way. If you say I want to have more energy so I can make those choices and I can form my reality, I can form those play dates, I can form those parties, you will feel way more in control. And yeah, just take it step by step, Lisa. I totally see where you're coming from, and I know that feeling. But it doesn't have to be something where you're just you know, you just have to deal with it. You do have a voice, and you can, form that as well. So learn Japanese online. Ask peer character stretching this arm forward, raising his thumbs up. Like, you gotta explain this to me. Is this like a, maybe that's like an emoji that is supposed to stay? Okay, but thank you very much for the contribution. Let me see. I don't want to miss those. Okay, what we have here. Um, okay. So I see what you're doing. So thank you so much. So I see you're posting some great emojis, and like for me it just says it says the, I don't know how you see it now. For me it says hippo character spins around in his chair, arms flung up in the air. Okay, so thank you very much for your donation. Now I get what's going on. Okay. Good. Okay, so a couple of just last things. Yeah, so as I said, we have 2 more minutes. So as I said, if you want to join bootcamp and you want to do it in the, let's say, like 5 more minutes, I know it's officially over, but like 5 more minutes, then you enter to win one of 3 audio guides as well. So we're going to have a draw tomorrow, and then on Monday I will inform the 3 who have won this. This also applies for everybody who got into the boot camp like today or yesterday. Like, I know I had a like I mean, officially we launched today, right? But and we also have a Facebook group. So this is not a necessity, but like if you're on Facebook and you want to join, it's a very uplifting group, and this group like continues also when the bootcamp round is not happening. And yeah, so like I'm really excited about like bootcamp because I see the results people are having. I see that INFJs keep coming back. So yeah, that makes me very, very happy. And we keep on, growing, as in like we see how things are working, and we've been doing this for 3 years, and it just keeps on getting more and more. And so the community and the energy around us all just like, amplifies, and therefore we create amazing results, and I'm super, super happy with the community that we do have. So if you have any technical questions or any questions when it comes to the process, something is not working, write us at info@wences.com. All the live, like, it's we have a lot of like videos recorded and working material, workbooks and so on, and then it's like 6 live calls. They were like similarly how this is, but it's an unlisted YouTube live stream, so we can still chat, but it's of course a much smaller group, and therefore we get to questions much quicker and everything. And we really go deep, and we talk about, like, we have 6 sessions, so we first use one in order to go into the introduction to really understand the system, and then in each, not just in each week we talk about one more pillar, but it's also like in between those pillars, like, there's not homework because we're not checking up on it, but it's more like, okay, now we talked about the theory of pillar 1, let's apply this, and let's talk about it next week, as in like, how was that for you? So there is always this learning process of, okay, we absorb something in theory, and then let's see the practice of it. Okay, so super, let's start 3. Thank you so much. Thank you all, guys. And I wish you all a great week. I'm looking forward to see many of you next week in our bootcamp round. And yeah, I wish you an amazing, day, evening, morning, wherever you are. And I see you soon.